I think the reality is that when we talk about international and global business, and we talk about multinationals investing in South Africa, the danger with all of this is that we have articles like this, how our local businesses lose 100 billion, and we can see there. And I'm not worried too much about prices, but one of the things that attracts international business to a country would always be your infrastructure. And the reality is our rail constraints have gotten out of hand, and then infrastructure from a load shedding perspective is impossible to convince anyone to come and invest in South Africa. So the simple truth is that we want to be part of this global village, but somehow we mess it up. We keep messing it up. And then you get wonderful news like this, where you then have global investors. But it's car powership, and it really is just another international company. It's Turkish company, and we'll remember they were involved during the COVID crisis, and also always some sort of individual locally that facilitates this. But if we look at car powership's role in terms of state capture, these are the kinds of individuals that we don't want to attract. These are the kinds of individuals that we don't want near our country. And yet somehow, instead of attracting decent businesses, we end up with nonsense like this. I'll share that one with you guys. The other one, and this discussion on this is, yeah, far from over, far from over. And it's the idea of what Amazon is trying to achieve, and versus whether we are going to see Amazon ever operating in South Africa. Now, if we look at this, this is a fairly recent article, must be about 3 months old. So we're talking about Amazon gearing up to launch the business. And when we think of global businesses and when we think of multinational enterprises, Amazon is clearly very, very much one of them. And I think the struggles that they've had in terms of finding land, and then also there are other issues. I think everyone will know that they had secured land, and then there were protests from the San community claiming that the land was sacred, and it's that question of, do we support culture or do we support the idea of 5,000 new jobs in Cape Town in terms of Amazon itself and some of the knock-on industries? So we have all these challenges in South Africa where we are constantly trying to invite international business to invest, but we can't provide them electricity. And when a big player like Amazon arrives, then obviously the truth is they have struggled to find land. And again, I don't want to have an opinion about whether the land is sacred to the San people and whether selling it to Amazon and all the issues around that is right or not. I had a student 2 years ago who actually was of San descent, of Khoisan descent, and she argued that it's absolutely unethical what has happened and that Amazon should find another place. And then you have students arguing, well, 5,000 jobs in a country where we are shedding jobs is a big attraction. And so very difficult sometimes for international businesses to actually come to South Africa and make magic happen, despite the fact that we keep telling the globe that we're open for business. And I always don't know whether South Africa is open for business or not, or whether some of the constraints and some of the realities of our country push people away. If you were an international firm, Leah, who else joined us? Sorry, I see somebody else joined us. Tebogo, one more person joining. How likely would you be to invest in South Africa? How likely would you be in terms of setting up a greenfield project, moving into South Africa, settling in South Africa? What are the likelihoods of that happening? Yeah, it's very difficult to convince people, and then we have the Department of Trade and Industry who keep going out and trying to attract people to invest. It's the infrastructure is poor, and then also, I mean, we cannot steer away from the corruption, and Carp Powership is just one of those really corrupt companies that were involved in or was involved in state capture. So there's so much that we try and achieve in terms of globalization, and so little in terms of attracting international investors. And yeah, the truth is, if you want to grow the economy, those are the sort of minimum standards, the investment, getting people to invest. What are the advantages of investing in South Africa for global business? And let's not talk about the disadvantages. Let's say we are in the ideal system, our infrastructure is reasonable, we've got rid of crime. What are some of the advantages of investing in South Africa? And why we've seen companies like Samsung move into South Africa, why we've seen a company like Hisense move into South Africa as well and set up manufacturing elements and manufacturing facilities. Hi, Assad, how are you? What are the advantages? What do we offer the world other than all the negatives that I've just mentioned? I think if we look at what specifically Samsung and Hisense had said, it was really about the platform, no problem, where I don't, those things don't bother me at all. It's about setting the platform and launching from South Africa into Africa. So South Africa is the ideal launchpad into expanding into Africa. We have the African Union, we're a member of the African Union. So all of those are advantages for companies who want to invest. But the reality is the disadvantages are so significant that even with that idea of launching from South Africa and using us as a launch base into Africa is not enough to convince people to arrive. So when we look at the idea of globalization, give me, and please don't type, guys, please just talk through the mic. What does globalization really mean? What is globalization? What is globalization? How would you define globalization? What are the consequences of globalization? Yeah, for me, globalization is this idea of this one world economy. Globalization is that kind of world where we see the free movement of products, services, skills, and finances across traditional boundaries. One of the key defining factors of globalization will always be your multinational organizations. These multinational organizations I spoke about yesterday in the NSS are these global behemoths who exert a lot of power. And I also mentioned yesterday that 2/3 of the wealthiest economies in the world are multinationals. They're not countries. Only a third, in fact, are countries. The rest are multinational organizations in terms of the 2/3 of the wealthiest dollar-rich economies in the world. Have we seen anti-globalization movements in recent times? Give me examples of anti-globalization movements. There are three significant ones. Examples of anti-globalization events. that do the opposite. Give me Dunkin' Donuts. Give me that. I'm thinking a lot bigger than that, Leah. I think I'm thinking far more from a macro economic perspective. But we'll talk about the sort of specific micro events. But there are three macro economic global events that suggest that our march towards globalization might be over. Yeah, no, absolutely. But there are three global events, macro global events, that suggest our march towards globalization might be over. When Trump was in the White House, his attitude of America first and almost behaving in an anti-global fashion, Brexit would be one of the key defining factors. The fact that we had Brexit would suggest that this idea of integrated economies are over. And then the third one would be China openly saying that in terms of their technology type industries, they will become completely self-sufficient in terms of their supply chain, not having people in other nations actually act as suppliers. So it's quite interesting in terms of the shift, how people are actually kicking against against globalization as a process. And then to also just say, guys, this new divide in the world order, this East versus West, the extended Brexit, and then obviously America, Australia, New Zealand, the EU nations, the UK, Britain in general, they forming another area, and we have this split in terms of where the world is going, and I don't want to say East versus West because that's very simplistic, but we can almost argue that it is a bit of an East versus West split. So all of these suggest that globalization and the rules around globalization have definitely changed. If we look at some of the challenges and why we need to deal with it, I think the first one is, you see, BRICS is interesting because where BRICS is now gone with the extension of it, there are these regional economies, but globalization is a one world economy, and we've seen the split between these regions, the East versus West. So for me, the new definition of BRICS and how America has aligned itself with the UK and with the EU and with Australia and with New Zealand, there's a real suggestion that the rules around globalization have changed, and we will have regional sort of regionalization, let me use that term, versus globalization. But BRICS is very much part of it, and the extended BRICS very much part of it, with those new people included. And I think it's Turkey, and I can't even remember who else is in Turkey and Iran. Can't remember, guys. I should know this off by hand, but is this, yeah, 6 new countries. I can't remember offhand who they were. I know Iran was part of it, or might not be part of it. I know that Turkey is part of it. Oh, please, let me just see who else have they put in here. United Arab Emirates. I don't know who it is. I wish there was just a simple one. Yeah, but there are a number of changes in terms of BRICS. Okay, guys, so in terms of international business, one of the challenges is to maintain competitive advantage, because you don't only have to worry about global events, you also have to worry about events where you do business in countries where you do business, and those are two different things, because sometimes the rules and the laws and the culture in one country is so different from another country, and then you still have to deal with global events. And the current global event would be Israel's fight against Hamas. I don't have many comments to make about it, but this is insane that we have these wars play out on television in front of us. I don't know if anyone watches CNN. CNN very much pro-Israel. You can hear in their comments that they're pro-Israel. Again, I prefer not to make comments on my opinion, because it just is going to evoke a lot of headaches. Well, the reality is, and it's happening in front of our eyes, Leah, where we have got great minerals and great commodities, but is that enough? Is that enough? If you don't have the infrastructure, if you don't have the ability to value add, if you look at our brain drain, if you look at some of the other areas where South Africa are clearly deficient, it's not enough. And if we look at, and I always think as I lecture, my brain runs, but I just want to, it is the world, I'm trying to remember, competitiveness report. It's from the Lausanne University. Let me see if I can find it. Lausanne, I'm hoping that this will, let's see what kicks in. Yeah, here it is. Sorry, there it is. And we'll see on the basis of that, even with, okay, yeah, no, that's fine. Even with all our natural resources, you'll see from a global competitive perspective, we are shocking. I wonder if we can find it. And it's well worth having this website, in particular when you're looking to set up a business or work globally, to have this in your saving, in your favorites. Where is that? Let's see if they'll give us, oh gosh. Okay, they've changed this, wait, let's see if it'll take us there. The rankings. Let's hope it kicks out. And even with all those natural resources and those commodities, it's just not enough. Now, what this does, it looks at a number of measures of what makes you globally competitive, and have a glance at who the most competitive nations are in the world. So Denmark doesn't have a lot of natural resources. Ireland hasn't got a lot of natural resources. Switzerland doesn't have a lot of natural resources. And then we talk about the dots on the map. Singapore and Hong Kong, they have zero natural resources. But what they have is they have these astonishing abilities to value add. They have the astonishing ability to take raw materials, value add, and sell it to the rest of the world. Now, have a glance at those top 10. How many of those have significant natural resources? And the commodities, in terms of what you said, were minerals and commodities, sorry. Have a glance at what makes you globally competitive. Now, Saudi Arabia, yeah, they have oil, great for them. Luxembourg, I don't think they've got any natural resources. Australia, and then we look for South Africa. Let's see if we can spot our flag. Yeah, out of the countries surveyed, 61st out of 64. So our natural resources mean absolutely bugger all, actually. And then, yeah, it kills us. If we look at the measures they use, Economic performance, we 61st out of 64. Government efficiency, 59 out of 64. Business efficiency, 54, and that's just because of private business. Infrastructure, 62 out of 64. I mean, it's mind-blowing, and you'll see how these have changed over time. So 2019, I'll share this so you guys can have a glance at it. It's wonderful. It's wonderful reading, and it's astonishing. You know, I don't prepare for class, but your question just reminded me of this. And you can just see, and you can look at where we've declined. Yeah, it's seriously bad. Where we do incredibly well and have done reasonably well is our banking system is world class, although we've seen some messes up with VBS Bank and African Bank and those kinds of places. And then you can look at the sort of attractiveness indicators. Look at this. It's shocking. So when you try and think that you're going to come to South Africa and that our natural resources mean anything, our natural resources mean bugger all, simply because we don't value add. We export, we export iron ore and import car parts. We export leather and raw leather, and we import expensive Italian handbags. Yeah, it's a shocker. It really is a shocker. I'll share this with you guys as well. There's so much here, and yeah, let me share that one with you guys as well, so that you can have it in your savings. But it's shocking. The only it's not good news. Because in the past we were the only African country on here, but Botswana is 59th. Guys, what does Botswana offer the world? And I'm not being rude about Botswana, because that's part of your assignment that you're doing. But I think those are the only two African countries that make it. But it's not great news. It really isn't great news. To see Botswana, and this might be worth your while in terms of your assignment, when you do your opportunities and threats analysis and take decisions. I'll share that as well in there. I'm hoping people who watch the recording can see where I'm finding this. Have a glance at that. Yeah, economic performance will always kick them because their economy is small. But look at government efficiency, 37th. Where are we? 50 something. And you can see the elements that contribute to each of those. So you'll see those are your purple, those are your blue, those are your business efficiencies, and then obviously you'll see the infrastructure. The infrastructure is as shocking as ours. So have a glance at this. It's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful read, and you can certainly use elements of this in your assignment. So as much as you write, and I don't know who else joined us. Hi, Cabello. How are you? As much as we have those fantastic resources, the truth is they mean very little. Have a glance at Botswana, though, when you do your assignment. So, guys, when we look at concepts, so international trade, yeah, that would be your exports and imports. What do we export? Goodness me, of value nowadays. What do we export in terms of real value? And again, we export raw material. We don't export value-added material. Imports, our balance of trade is shocking. We import so much nowadays, and having to import. I see today that I don't know if you guys saw this article, that we're now importing, and I don't know if it's now going to, because I should prepare for class, guys, and then I would open everything in front. But it's for me, it's intuitive, and it's about us having to import powdered eggs. I don't know if anyone saw that article. Where is it? Yeah, because of the avian flu. And I think we have to import some of this stuff here. Yeah. And again, it's just bad news. It's bad news that in 2023 that avian flu is an issue. And these are the things the world sees. Foreign direct investment is where essentially, oh gosh, you invest in another company and get controlling ownership. I think a nice South African example, and it's a slightly dated example, and my apologies for that, is when Walmart came in and initially invested in Massmart. Walmart now owns 51% of Massmart. And here is where essentially you own offshore shares, stocks, and those kinds of things. Yeah, and then multinational enterprises. These are organizations that have a footprint in a number of countries. If we look at this, world's I'm going to just share that. It's quite interesting to see how many of those. Oh gosh, is that showing your side? I'm sure it is. Apple in South Africa, wealthiest brand. Microsoft, wealthiest brand. Berkshire Hathaway, I don't know what they have. A textile manufacturer. I'm not sure whether we have them. Alphabet is obviously the holding company of Google. Google itself, you know, Alphabet is over there. I don't know what this is, guys. And then Johnson & Johnson in South Africa, and yeah, and some of the others there. So we see all these multinationals, Intel very much active in South Africa, IBM, Nestle, Toyota, Louis Vuitton. I don't know what Cargill is. Anyone know what Cargill is? I don't know what they are. My apologies. I should know what they are, and I really Cargill because I know the name, and maybe I'm just being dumb today. Okay, and I must. What's Cargill? It doesn't give us that. I'm pretty sure somebody will figure it out for us. General Electric. Is General Electric still in South Africa? I'm not sure. Pfizer very much in South Africa. Exxon not in South Africa. NVIDIA. What is Lilly? Does anyone know what Eli Lilly? Okay, pharmaceutical company. And then also Volkswagen, we know what they are. I mean, third biggest selling brand in South Africa after Toyota first and Suzuki second. So the reality is these are those multinationals that we talk about, and it's well-known brands, and these are incredibly wealthy. How's it, Ruan? Guys, and then just to go through some of these bits and pieces. Yeah, global company, and this is where we have a footprint almost in every nation in the world. So Google, for example, does operate in China, but its searches are limited. I don't think Apple is allowed in China, but I don't know what the rules of the game are anymore. And then international management. These are best practices that we use in terms of integrating the different elements of these multinationals. And then international strategy, yeah, it really is where we take our core competencies, and remember that's one of the assignment questions, and we transfer it to foreign markets. And then you can see some of these others here, and we did actually discuss this in the actual NSS last night, so you can watch that. So when we look at globalization, yeah, the consequence of globalization is that free movement of products, services, skills, and finances. And this ability of an organization to essentially have these extended reaches. I'm pretty sure that people on this call have spouses, have friends, have uncles, have aunts, have moms, have dads who earn a living in another country but live in South Africa. I don't know if anyone is in that position where they're still South African citizens but they work overseas. And then we also talk about the idea of this free movement of products, services, skills. We have South Africans working locally, but working for international companies. In my postgraduate course in Westville, I have a young woman who works for a Canadian company, but works from home for a Canadian company and gets paid in um, Canadian dollars, which is not great. It's not as strong as the US dollar. I have one of my honors students from last year that during honors did the social media marketing elements of different companies in the UK, and she had set herself up as a little business, and she had 8 or 9 UK companies that she would do media releases for, manage their social media profile, and that was all from her home in Pietermaritzburg. So we see those free movement elements as being part of what globalization is, and I certainly think that. And I am about 5 years away from retirement at this stage, but not that I'll ever retire, because I still have a baby at home, not a baby, but a 17-year-old who needs to go to university. I think one of my plans is to go to is to start lecturing for overseas companies if I don't go and sort of work in another country. But I'm, that's 5 years away before I'm 65, guys. So that's another problem for another day. So in terms of the sort of one world economy merging of these traditionally separate markets, I think we have that kind of that process that it's possible for people now to become these global citizens. We've just seen the appointment of a new CEO for Goldfields, I think it is, and it's a South African that's been living overseas but is coming back to be the CEO. So when we look at the drivers of globalization, what does GATT and the WTO stand for? You see it on the news all the time. What does GATT and WTO stand for? You guys can cheat in the background if you want. Remember, it's the General Agreement of Trade on General Agreement on Trade and Tariffs, the World Trade Organization, and their job and those institutions' job is to promote that free movement of products, services, skills, and finances. It's about getting rid of import duties and taxes, import taxes, and it's about opening up the borders between countries in terms of product movements. The reality, though, is if we look at South Africa, we have so many import duties to protect local companies. Give me examples of import duties that have been imposed to protect local industries. I'll just use the China one, that there are import duties on clothes, for example, and that's why we've seen clothing prices go up over time. If you've ever ordered, and these are such micro examples, if you've ordered anything from, sorry guys, I have my phone and I've got supervisors contacting me for research, my apologies, from Shein, you know that you'll pay for some sort of import duty. If you order from Wish, there's always some sort of import duty. If you order from Amazon Global, obviously, there's always some sort of import duty. But, those are the realities of it. But Shein is still worth buying from. I think the prices and the deals you get with Shein is well worth it. Any comment on Shein, Leah, worth buying from? Has anyone else shopped at Shein? Okay. Yeah, so if you don't know what Shein is, I'm not promoting this because I have nothing to do with this company, but this they look like a bit of an Alibaba, but I think it's more, oh gosh, all I need is nudity to appear now on the screen, and they're not, oh goody, women costumes. The rule is don't go and search. Oh my word. I'm just going to go men's fashion, but now we're going to have some dodgy men's fashion come up as well. Oh my word. Yeah, and you can see it's anything you can. I'm not going woman again. Shoes might be safe, guys. Oh my word. Let's see what their sales are. So Henny gets fired. Oh my word. There's some more. Okay, shoes. That's not too. I think I might be fired after this, guys. Um, Anyone else order from Shein? Yeah, you can see really good prices in terms of clothing. Yeah, I'm too scared to show men's fashion because who knows what the hell is going to appear in terms of men's fashion in the background here. I don't know. I can't swap it over. Okay. No, it's too slow. But the reality is, guys, Shein is a nice example of having to pay import duties. And then advances in technology, the biggest driver, without a single shadow of a doubt, in terms of globalization, is telecommunications and transport technologies. The truth is, if we look at how telecommunication technologies have advanced, how the internet has made it possible for us to work anywhere, to earn a living anywhere, how we have abilities to interact with people from other countries. I've worked on a team where we put together a new qualification, and I had people from Scandinavia and a whole range of from some of the Scandinavian countries, and a whole range of other countries work together in a team. And here's little old me sitting in Pietermaritzburg and working with these individuals from these different countries. And it's the reality of what information technology gives us and communications technology. And then transport technology. It's possible to fly from South Africa on a Friday to attend a concert in the UK, in London on Saturday night, fly back on Sunday, and be at work on Monday. Not that I've done it, but I think it must be pretty cool to be able to do that. So the reality is that those advances in transportation technologies have made a significant difference in terms of how we travel and the speed at which we can deliver things. Other drivers, yeah, these trade blocks and free trade areas. So BRICS would be one of them. Some of the others, but I can't remember what this has been renamed. But we used to have NAFTA, North American Free Trade Agreement. We have ASEAN. We've got several of these trade blocks. South Africa, obviously, part of SADC as well. And if you want to have a glance at SADC, should all be capitals, my apologies. And then BRICS for us is obviously the biggest example. And then the first one really that made headlines in terms of a single currency and other advances in terms of free movement between countries would obviously be the European Union. Multinationals, global competition. I think the key is that a lot of organizations survive on the basis of economies of scale. And the only way you can get to economies of scale is by going global. It's by going and selling your product internationally. And remember what economies of scale does. It reduces the per unit cost of an item that we produce. What we've also seen in terms of that from a globalization perspective is that companies and countries have become known for their core business. So If you want to design, and it's a little bit simplistic what I'm saying, but if you want to design, you design in Germany. If you want to market, you market from America. If you want to manufacture, you go to China or India. And we have these countries that have these sort of core competencies. South Africa's core competency, again, very difficult to determine, but if we change our business model to being similar to what the United Arab Emirates has as a gateway economy, because if you think of the UAE, all they are is that they're a gateway into the oil-rich nations, and South Africa needs to reconsider its model. We can't be a manufacturing economy. We can't compete on the basis of that. And the way to do that is to be a gateway economy to Africa, which means your banking system must be great, your transport system must be great, your hospitality systems must be great. But there seems to be no will to change our business model. Yeah. So when we look at why it's difficult to do business internationally, I think the first one is countries are different in terms of their own pestle factors. So you not only have to consider global pestle factors, you have to consider the unique pestle factors within different nations. Doing business in South Africa is very different from doing business in Denmark, is very different from doing business in Japan, is very different from doing business in the UK. It's each of those countries have their own unique realities, and trying to be a global company is tough. Yeah, guys, and then also international organizations and agreements. So we've spoken about those free trade agreements, and then government restrictions. Yeah, I don't know. Is South Africa pro-investment? I know that the Department of Trade and Industry keeps inviting people and telling people that South Africa is open for business. I don't know whether our realities kick against that, and I think we realize that our realities actually kick against it. So why do we go global? Yeah, first of all, globalization of competition. And yeah, the truth is very difficult to compete with these global behemoths. Give me examples of South African companies that compete globally but haven't gone international, and how tough it is. Give me examples of businesses that haven't gone global and trying to survive against the big guns. South African companies that have not gone global and are trying to survive against the big guns. As I always think, and it's such a silly example, and my apologies, that we have Anheuser-Busch and South African breweries, and I don't know what their name is, but imagine being a craft brewer in South Africa and trying to compete against the economies of scale of South African breweries and Anheuser-Busch. I know that they're the same company now. Imagine being a craft brewer. How do you survive trying to compete on the basis of those global competition? And we see a number of craft brewers survive in South Africa. I mean, how does an organization like Steers compete against McDonald's, against Burger King? But yet Steers somehow manages to do that. So it's those kind of challenges. And for me, the interesting one is how Takealot would fare against Amazon. Any comments about whether Amazon would actually impact Takealot and how? Takealot is a South African company, Amazon a global company. Who buys from Takealot? Yeah, I think they would. Who buys from Takealot quite often because I buy from Takealot often. I do all my Christmas shopping from Takealot. It's the best in the world. I do the family Christmas shopping from Takealot. Why do you think it would survive, Leah? What examples have we got that serve to suggest that it'll almost be business as usual? Oh, okay, very cool, very cool. Guys, remember, everyone thought that when Walmart arrived, we are going to see these massive price savings and these massive efficiencies being transferred across to South Africa. And it's made no difference. I've seen no difference in the prices from Macro or from Game, not that I ever shop at Game, or from Builders Express. I don't think Walmart has had any impact in terms of reducing prices. I don't know whether you guys agree with that. And I think what Amazon would do is they would just come in at market level prices. So they would be similarly priced to Takealot, and yeah, every so often they'll have specials, but Takealot will counter it. I really don't believe Amazon is going to make a significant difference. We might have a greater variety or a wider variety in terms of products, but I don't think that Amazon is going to have any real impact in terms of transferring savings across to us. They'll just go in at market price rates and we'll have another option to buy from. Comments about that particular opinion? Do you think I've got it wrong? Didn't make a difference in terms of Walmart, so why would it make a difference in terms of Amazon? Come, guys. Any opinion on that? Yeah. Guys, and then just globalization. I think it's going to give it the run for its money, but I don't think it's going to be the price war that people think it will be. I think they'll come in at market prices and we'll just have an extra online place to buy from. Guys, and then saturation of domestic markets. Yeah, give me an example of a company that had reached saturation and then has decided to go overseas because there was nothing left in terms of local markets. South African company or South African business. And had reached market saturation and they decided to go overseas. Yeah, no, I think so, Asad. I definitely think so. As remember, we've seen market saturation in terms of fast food. I don't know why I keep talking about fast food, but Nando's now has gone overseas. Our banks operate in Africa. We've seen, and we discussed this last year, Netcare have hospitals in some of the Arab nations. We saw Southern Sun also expand because they had reached saturation in domestic markets. Guys, and then our cell phone networks have gone into Africa as well. We see MTN. What is quite scary, and is I have a friend who lives in Zambia, and their MTN cell phone costs is a fraction of what they are in South Africa. You cannot believe how little they pay for data. And I think, how the heck do you go from South Africa into another country and the other country gets better deals than the place where you started? It's a strange phenomenon. I find that quite strange. Guys, proactive reasons. The first one, economies of scale. I spoke about that. Location economies. Again, my example. It's stupid, Asad. We get ripped off. I think, and I need to check my facts again, but I'm pretty sure that we are the most expensive, or if not one of the most expensive countries in terms of connectivity, in terms of data, etc. And It's ridiculous. We are ripped off. We're a poor country, and then we get ripped off. And then you have MTN. Yeah, no, I know that it's we're up there, if not the most expensive. And then you have in Zambia, where I have a friend there that spent 60 Rand on 30 gigs worth of data in Zambia. 60 Rand to buy 30 gigs of data. How much does 30 gigs of data cost you in South Africa if you buy it as a once-off? 30 gigs a data, 60 Rand. It's not 60 Rand, it'll be 300-400 Rand. Exactly, Leah. I'm not going to check what 30 gigs of data would cost, but I know it's a massive, massive amount. Guys, and then just location economies. It's that idea of designing in Germany, marketing in America, and then building or manufacturing in China. South Africa, what we offer the world is our time zone. So we see a lot of call centers being opened up in South Africa, and I see so many of my students work very briefly in call centers because there aren't many alternatives. But certainly, we definitely know that call centers have started moving to South Africa because of our cost. Also, they were considered slave labor, but also because of our time zone. Guys, and then also it allows us to acquire resources internationally. It allows us to go to the places where the resources are, where it's more efficient to find resources. And then diversifying markets and risk. Not all countries suffer economically at the same time. And sometimes when one country is not doing well economically, you offset the loss in terms of performing in another country. And then core competencies. And this is where you take the magic that you have inside and you take it globally. And if we think of what Nando's did in terms of their core competencies and how popular they've become in the UK, I mean, everyone talks about Nando's in the UK now because of the core competencies being transferred. Guys, we looked at this last night in the NSS, and you can glance at that. Yeah, just listen to the recording. I did quite a bit of discussion as well. And then I am not going to go through this because truthfully, you guys should know your pestle factors. You'll also see I discussed this last night, and you'll see I shared quite a bit on our more resources. Just watch the NSS on that. So those macro factors, part of the NSS, please listen to that there. Yeah, don't want this rubbish. And then we've done that as well. Yeah, technologies, etc. Let me stop here, and then yeah, we'll take this because I'm pretty sure one of these elements here will be in the exam. Okay, guys, any questions, any comments tonight? It was very quiet. Leah, anything from your side? Ruan, Tibogo? Very cool. I'm happy. I'm happy you were here. Okay, Tibogo, cool. Ruan, you okay, boyo? Okay, fantastic. And then, yeah, Asad, you okay, boyo? Yeah. Listen to the NSS's guys. Asad, please listen to the NSS. Yeah, you'll see I've said where the answers are and what the answers are. I've used our slides, so there's a bit of a disadvantage to the other students because I run the NSS, and the simple truth is your slides are used as the basis of it, and I don't share your slides with our lecturers. Thank you so much for this evening. I will see you guys next week, Tuesday. Cheers, guys. Look after yourselves. Fantastic, boy. Fantastic. Cheers all. Cheers, bye.